gentlemen, a quorum being present, the meeting will come to order. At this time, I would ask that everyone make their way to a seat so that we may begin the meeting. We do have an auxiliary location set up in the cafeteria, which also serves as our family-friendly room, with Mary Osgood serving as an alternate moderator for that location. And we have Robert Oliveri as an alternate moderator for those attending remotely who cannot attend due to a disability who have requested a reasonable accommodation through the Americans with Disability Act. Both alternate moderators have been sworn in and are accompanied by tellers. Please bear with me as I check in with Mrs. Osgood and Mr. Oliveri to ensure that they can see and hear us and that they are ready to begin. All right, so they are ready to go. So I now ask that you please rise if you are able and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Welcome to the Wilmington High School for a special town meeting. A few announcements before we get started. Bathrooms are located to the right of the doors that lead out to our teachers' parking lot. If you do use the bathroom, please take your voting card with you so that we know that you have already checked in. At this town meeting, in addition to complying with the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Wilmington Inhabitant Bylaws, we will use the same rules that we use at every town meeting. If you wish to speak on the merits of an article, I would ask that you approach one of the 4 microphones in the aisles of the auditorium, and I will call on those whom I see first at the microphones. Please identify your name and address so that we can accurately report the minutes of today's meeting. 4 individuals in the cafeteria. If you are a registered voter and would like to speak on an article, please let the alternate moderator know and make your way to the microphones in the auditorium. All microphones will be here in the auditorium, and we do not have microphones in the cafeteria. We have 2 articles on the warrant for this special town meeting. All motions or amendments having to do with the expenditures of money must be presented to me in writing. So on Article 2, that motion must be presented to me in writing. Consistent with our inhabitant bylaws, the maker of the main motion can have up to 10 minutes for comments, and all other speakers can have up to 5 minutes during discussion on a main motion. If you hear me tapping on the microphone, that is your cue that there are 30 seconds remaining, and to begin to wind down your comments. No person may speak twice on the same question except to correct a mistake or to provide an explanation. Non-voters should have yellow non-voter lanyards and should be seated to my right, your left, in the front of the auditorium. Voters should have what I'm told is a fuchsia pink-colored voting card, which should be displayed for any standing votes so that the tellers may count you. If you are intending on voting here tonight and are an active voter in the town of Wilmington, and you do not have a fuchsia pink voting card, please go to the check-in table located in the cafeteria to ensure that you are properly checked in. For standing votes, our tellers are going to be counting those voting cards, so not having one means your vote will not count. Tellers sitting in the front, I would ask that if you see any of the individuals to my right or left that wish to speak, and I have not noticed them, and because my peripheral vision has failed me, please wave me down so I can see, and I will be sure to put them in queue. If you do not know what we are voting on, please rise to make a point of order. I want to make sure that everyone at all times is aware of what we are voting on. Most importantly, we will be dealing with each other respectfully, even where there are issues on which we disagree. We understand that not everyone feels the same way about all issues. However, we do want people to feel comfortable participating in a town meeting, asking questions, and sharing opinions. Therefore, at this meeting, like all town meetings, we expect people to refrain from personal attacks, discussion not related to the matter at hand, and discussion raised for the sole purpose of disrupting the assembly, and addressing any other member by name, with all discussion to be through the moderator. Prior to today's meeting, I did submit an affidavit with the town clerk's office, attesting that I have no actual conflicts of interest with either of the articles on the warrant. I have not taken any public positions on any of the issues contained therein, and I have the ability to fairly administer to the issues of today's meeting. Hearing no objections, I declare that the rules of the meeting to have been approved by unanimous consent. Let me just check in quickly again with our auxiliary locations. Are we good? And we may begin. Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and in the manner prescribed by the bylaws of said town. You are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town qualified to vote in town affairs to meet and assemble at the Joanne M. Benton Auditorium, Wilmington High School, 159 Church Street, in said town of Wilmington on Thursday, the 20th day of November, 2025 at 7 p.m. Then and there to act on the following articles. Mr. West.
Mr. Moderator, good evening, everyone. I move that the moderator dispense with further reading of the warrant and take up and make reference to each article by number.
I'll accept that as the main motion. Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. In discussion. Seeing none, let's check again with that alternate moderator just to make sure that we are ready for a vote. All right. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Voted unanimously. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to overturn the action of the Wilmington Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the building known as the former Buzzell Senior Center, Buzzell School, located at 15 School Street. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, I'll accept that as the main motion. Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. Finance Committee recommends disapproval of Article 1. Discussion, Ms. Sullivan.
Oh, wait. The motion that I have does not read as you read, Mr. Moderator. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
If there are any objections, are there any objections to the withdrawal of the motion? Seeing none, through the general consent of the meeting, the motion is withdrawn, and you may proceed with your motion, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My motion reads to see if the town will exercise their legislative authority and vote pursuant to Section 12F of the Wilmington Inhabitant Bylaws to otherwise direct the town manager not to demolish the former Buzzell Senior Center, Buzzell School, located at 15 School Street, overriding the action of the Wilmington Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the former Buzzell Senior Center, Buzzell School, and to prohibit the expenditure of any funds for the purpose of demolishing said building unless otherwise directed by the legislative authority of town meeting.
Do you have that in writing by any chance, Ms. Sullivan?
I do, Mr. Moderator.
Do you mind just bringing it up? I'll meet you on the side. All right, I will restate the motion, which is to see if the town will exercise their legislative authority and vote pursuant to Section 12F of the Wilmington Inhabitant Bylaws to otherwise direct the town manager not to demolish the former Buzzell Senior Center, Buzzell School, located at 15 School Street, overriding the action of the Wilmington Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the former Buzzell Senior Center / Buzzell School, and to prohibit the expenditure of any funds for the purpose of demolishing said building unless otherwise directed by the legislative authority of town meeting. First, is there a second? Okay. Motion has been made and seconded. I've done this in the past, so apologies for town meeting superfans that might be in attendance. When I have to either make a call on a motion to amend, or in this case, a main motion that reads differently than the language of the article in the warrant, I have to make a determination that what is in front of this assembly is within the scope of the article. Since the purpose of the warrant is to apprise the voters of the subject matter to be considered at the meeting, all that is necessary is for the article to include a sufficient description of the subject matter to provide the voters with substantial and intelligent notice of the nature of the business to be acted upon. The article need not contain details or an accurate forecast of the precise action which the meeting will take. Matters incidental to and connected with the article are proper for consideration and action. Given that is really the guardrails in which I have to conduct an analysis, I am going to say that Ms. Sullivan's motion is within the scope of Article 1. Ms. Sullivan, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The purpose of this article is to override the vote of the Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the building known as the former Buzzell Senior Center Buzzell School, located at 15 School Street. We believe this authority lies in the hands of town meeting, and we wish to correct the lack of due or improper process for the demolition of town assets. Besides the fact, technically, there was not a valid motion or a vote to do so taken at the meeting when you review the Board of Selectmen's meeting on September 22nd. The Wilmington Select Board does not have the authority to demolish a town building, period. The Select Board would not even allow the public to speak prior to their deliberation. They did not let the public know they were going to vote to tear down a 90-year-old building in our town's historical district, removing any input to what happens to our buildings as their own decision when it's not their decision to make. They have an opinion, but that's it. The building is a public asset, so it deserves public scrutiny. There is no provision in the bylaws that provide for the action they took. In fact, we believe there is no provision for the town manager to make that decision. There clearly are no designated funds to undertake this action. We have requested verification that there are funds, and we have not received them. So that tells me there is no verification that there are funds. The legislative body is us, town meeting. The only way a democracy works is when the people have access to decisions that are made that affect them. It is true, we elect people to represent us, to make decisions for us that is laid out in our bylaws. Where the bylaws are silent on who has the authority to demolish town buildings, it automatically lays in the hands of the people. There are no provisions for the Select Board. There are no provisions for the town manager. There are no provisions for the school committee. There needs to be a funding and clear vote and intent to demolish a building, which has not occurred. Therefore, considering the process had already begun to demolish the Buzzell illegally, and it has been stated even if town meeting votes to fund the rehab, it will come down anyway. We are asking that this body, the legislative body of town meeting, vote and use their authority given to them under the bylaws and vote not to demolish the Buzzell School/Senior Center based on the vote of the Select Board and the wish of the town manager. So even if you wish not to save the building, in the end, I ask you to vote in favor of this article and make it clear that town meeting holds the ultimate authority, not the Select Board and not the town manager. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Further comment on Article 1? Smith. I'm sorry, just name and address for the record. I think I let you slide, but we'll look at old meetings minutes and we'll figure you out. Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Bonnie Smith, 30 Marion Street, and Chair of the Wilmington Historical Commission. Being denied the opportunity to present this statement on behalf of the Historical Commission prior to the September 22nd Select Board vote to demolish the Buzzell School, I'm grateful to be able to present this statement to you tonight. On behalf of the Wilmington Historical Commission, I would like to take this opportunity to make the following statement regarding the future disposition and reuse of the Buzzell School. The Buzzell School was constructed in 1935 and dedicated to Dr. Daniel T. Buzzell. Dr. Buzzell was born in Lee, New Hampshire on April 19, 1857. He attended the University of Vermont, graduating from medical school in 1883. He first practiced medicine in Roxbury, but about a year later moved to Wilmington. He married Mary Louisa White, a descendant of Lieutenant Benjamin Harnden of a Wilmington Minuteman. Mrs. Buzzell was an accomplished artist, poet, writer. She designed their home on Main Street, which is the former Kavanaugh Funeral Home. It was Dr. Buzzell who persuaded a young taxi driver, William Kavanaugh, to become an undertaker, thus establishing a business that went on under one name for over 75 years. The Buzzells had one son, Philip, who served as town council for more than half a century, as well as town moderator, library trustee, and Boy Scout leader. Dr. Buzzell set up practice in Wilmington in an era when the horse and buggy were as much of a part of the doctor's equipment as his bag of medicines and instruments. During his 40 years of practice, he never refused a call. He responded to calls in the winter or summer, rich, poor alike, and it has been said that, quote, his very presence had a healing for the sick or sympathy for the troubled or hard beset, end quote. The worldwide flu pandemic of 1918 to 1920 did not miss Wilmington. Dr. Buzzell was faced with 363 cases of the flu and desperately needed help. He set out to hire 2 public health nurses, thereby setting up the first nursing program in Wilmington. For nearly half a century, Dr. Buzzell attended nearly every childbirth in Wilmington and many in Tewksbury. In the course of his practice, he endeared himself to generations of Wilmington folk. Dr. Buzzell died in 1930, and to honor our beloved physician, the next school built in Wilmington in 1935 was named for him and became our first junior high. The 6-room, single-story school building has great utility and has continued to serve the town for the past 87 years. When the town built the new high school in 1950, the old high school became the junior high, and the Buzzell became an elementary school. For years, the classes were 5th and 6th grades, and then in 1955, it became a primary school, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, of which I was one of those students. It has filled other roles through the years. It was the host of Wilmington's first kindergarten class in 1976, Tiny Talks program, Soapbox Derby, School Curriculum Center. And in 1981, it was unused as a school, and in 1986, it was converted to our town senior center, where it has been beloved again by many of its former students for the last 36 years. So you see, this is not just another old building. It stands as a tribute to an amazing life of one of Wilmington's most prominent citizens of the early to mid-1900s. Its floor plan and grade level entrance has been open and accessible to both the youngest and oldest residents. The schoolrooms offer generous space for offices, meeting rooms, and should continue to do so. The Wilmington Historical Commission would like to make a recommendation to the town to save this historic building and to continue to build our future upon the solid foundation of the past. Saving and reuse of this historic building is one way to continue to honor the man who welcomed 40 years of our citizens into the world, and also the thousands of students who expanded their horizons through Wilmington Public Schools. Respectfully submitted on behalf of the Wilmington Historical Commission, Bonnie Smith, Chair of the Wilmington Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Fasulo.
Rob Fasulo, 28 Marjorie Road. First of all, Mr. Moderator, through you, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. This is democracy. Make your voices heard. This is why this was done. So please extend my thank you to them.
Thank you.
I'm only going to ask you for one thing that was missed in the opening. If you wouldn't mind putting up the Town Manager Act, 12F.
Nope, scroll down. There we go.
Okay, Section 12F, that deals with the buildings. I challenge anybody in this room to point out where the Board of Selectmen has the authority to tear down a building. With that, thank you.
Seeing no, is there any other? Ms. Benelli.
Jen Benelli, 17 Jacob Street. I just wanted to say that, why I don't necessarily agree with maybe some of the legal-ish piece of this. I am, for lack of a better word, proud of the citizens who brought this amendment to the table and gave the opportunity for the public to weigh in tonight. Whether or not the select board technically has authority or not, this is a historical building centered in the center of our town, and it has that's very well located. A survey was given to the public about whether they felt there was reuse. 66% of the public said they wanted reuse of this building. The committee that was brought to attention, we're split. I think it needed more due diligence than people talking a little bit about how much this is going to cost versus what it's worth. How much something is worth is more than just a dollar value. There is historical value. There is the opportunity cost. The cost of that the reuse committee suggested was $1.2 million. I know that they're asking for less today, but that's about $154 per square foot. A new building is $700 to $800 per square foot. How are we going to, does the community really have viable use for this building? 66% of the people that took that survey said they did. What is the town's solution if it's not the Buzzell? Is that going to be so costly that we can't afford it when we have lots of schools to deal with, whatever, a million other needs for town? Or do we have another viable solution? Is there another one of these buildings in town that has greater historical value that we think we can't save them all, but it's not the Buzzell, but it's this one? I don't know. We didn't talk about that. Is there another place where we could have a community center or a place for WCTV? Where are those solutions? I think it's premature to knock down this building before we have vetted the solutions and acknowledge the community's need. Because once it's gone, it's gone. We cannot bring back the history. It does not make sense to replace that at that location, right? And it may not be in my lifetime that we could get something for $150 per square foot overall. I'm going to end, I don't know where I am on time, with the analogy that $100 million, $1 million or even $600,000 may seem like a lot, but the town's income is over $150 million per year. It's like 1% of what they make. Okay, say you make $100,000, that's about $1,000. I'm not going to, throw around $1,000 really quickly, but it's a lot less than what it would be to spend and get a new building. It's a lot less to spend $1,000 replacing the tires on your car than get a completely new car. So while I don't know if it's right or not to tear down the Buzzell, because I don't know where the solutions are to these needs of the community and if it's viable, but I do believe this assembly deserves the opportunity to weigh in on that decision before we knock it down and hear the solutions. So thank you.
Any other further speakers on Article 1?
James Morris, 55 Andover Street.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you were waiting to speak. The woman in the back, in the black, I'm going to go you, and Plaid in the back. Okay.
I'll make it quick. Candace Jenkins, 8 Drury Lane. So first, through the moderator, I also would like to thank everybody that came out tonight, and especially to the folks that put forth all the things necessary to get this to town meeting. My comment would be that even prior to the putting together of the reuse committee, and for any of these discussions about what to do with the Buzzell, I would like to make it known that there were a lot of residents that have asked the questions about what is the future of the Buzzell prior to even breaking ground on the new town hall school admin building. We continued to ask what were the plans for the Buzzell, and we were silenced and continually told that's not of concern of the town hall school admin committee, and it was not part of any of the discussions. Fast forward to a few town meeting, select board meetings ago, when it was presented that the recommendation would be to tear down the Buzzell because there was a misplanning or lack of planning for how many parking spots needed to be allocated for the use of the town hall school admin building. It was recommended to tear the Buzzell down in order to make way for those 14 or some odd extra parking spaces that were needed. When I spoke at that select board meeting, I had asked, where was that in the planning when we had continued to ask about the Buzzell? And we were told, quote, directly from the town manager, there were always assumptions made about the Buzzell. So, just to the townspeople, through the moderator, what I would like to say to you is, please take this into consideration, whether or not you agree with the building should stay or go. I think it's important that for those of us that have continued to speak on this issue and ask questions about this issue for years before this has even come forth for the town to vote on, that we should be given a voice, and it should not be allowed for us to be silenced and our questions to be put down, and that clearly the consideration to the select board and the town manager, these comments that we've been making for years, have not been taken into consideration and is not a representation, and they are not representing all of the townspeople in here. So with that, I'd like to say thanks.
All right, gentleman in the front, woman in the back, and the gentleman out back. So 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. James Morris, 55 Andover Street. History is important. We live in a fabulous town that was founded well before the Revolutionary War. My street that I live on was laid out by the British 200 or 300 years ago, more than that probably. We should pay attention to that. The townspeople have acted before to preserve historical buildings in the town because they thought it was important. You know, in the neighborhood where I live, the Harnden Tavern was going to be torn down for a gas station, and the town stepped in and changed that. Okay, we have, within the past number of years, we have demolished the Jason Stevenson Park, where the fire station now sits. We have demolished the Swain. We have demolished the Whitfield. History is important. We learn from history. It's important for us to understand where we came from so we can help ourselves learn as we go forward in the future. Please stop demolishing our history. Stop demolishing our buildings. Please help us retain what little history we have left in our town. Thanks so much.
Yes.
Linda Toth, 54 Fiorenza Drive. I'm a newbie to Wilmington. I have no history. Didn't grow up here, didn't have parents here, didn't have children here. I am a dancer. I had been at the Buzzell since I've moved here. Enjoyed it when it was the school behind the new admin center. It was small, and we didn't have enough room. The basement flooded. We didn't have a very big kitchen when it was first made into the senior center. When we finally got the kitchen done, we still didn't have enough room for everything that was going on. Therefore, once they decided to put the admin center or the town hall in front of Buzzell, you don't see Buzzell anymore. You don't see the school from Main Street. You don't see anything to make you know that there is a school there. And if the Buzzell was built that long ago, I think it served its purpose. If you want to honor the Buzzell School and Dr. Buzzell, you can put up some sort of memorial in that area where people would know that that was the site of the school. You have the history of Dr. Buzzell from the woman that gave the history of Dr. Buzzell and what he did for town. We don't need a building that really, if you're going to have to rehab it, to put the money out to rehab it, or tear it down. I myself have no, can't think of the word, but I don't have anything to do with Buzzell. It doesn't mean a whole lot of history to me. To me, it's a building that served its purpose in the past, served its purpose now in the present, and I don't see how it's going to serve it when we're going to have schools that are going to be closing that can take over the footage that you want Buzzell. I'm sorry that if I make people feel uncomfortable or upset, but when you have people moving in that don't have any contact or family feelings for this school, you're going to have some people that say, if it's between this and that, and we've got all of these other buildings coming up, what is the big deal outside of sentiment? Thank you.
Gentleman out back, and then Ms. Galezo.
My name is Steve Burkhouse, 32 Chestnut Street. I'm hoping to tell you about the old senior center. I understand it was built in 1935. The roof is good. The windows are good. I'm a retired town painter for like 12 years. Okay, I know these buildings inside and out. I could tell you stories about these buildings. And I love the painting job. It was great. And I met a lot of people there, too, all different things. I met, like, principals, and I met teachers, and, Brian Kieference, I met him down at high school, made a lot of friends. The thing is, on this building here, I'm wondering if maybe we could reduce the cost if you do pass it here, and maybe like volunteers go in there and help us out. When they first did that building years ago, it was a union man went in there, and they completely rebuilt it. Guys like Joe Flipowitz, who was a World War II veteran, he passed away many years ago, but they helped it come. I think maybe you could use this building for maybe a community thing, maybe for the kids or something, or the Sons of Italy, or the cable. I think it's a feasible building. I was in there last time I was in there was this past February. And, it needs work. Obviously, the thresholds are bad, the bathrooms are too small, whatever, but I think we could do it. And the same, we have to preserve history in this town. This is a very historic town, and we're losing our buildings left and right. So let's keep this building going, and let's hope we can do it. And also, I want to thank Dennis Kelly. He's been really good to us over the years. Whatever we need, we have. And of course, I actually worked for Dennis at one point too. Also, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think I've covered. Yeah, that's enough. But please, just help us preserve history in town and keep it going. And also, I'm a volunteer down at the tavern, and we're looking for volunteers down at the tavern to help us too, if you can help us out. And we're having December 7th. We're having a social down there. It's free. Everybody, come down. Thank you.
All right. I suppose now is as good a time as any to remind folks to please constrain your comments to the motion on the floor. So we're going to go to Ms. Galezo, and then you, and then you, and then
Mr. Moderator, through you, could the town manager or town council explain to the body what kind of authority the executive branch has?
we go to town council.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through you to the meeting. I'll speak from here. The original article that was presented at town meeting specified to see if the town will vote to overturn the action of the Wilmington Select Board. The motion made under that article, as allowed by the town manager, references Section 12F of the Town Manager Act, the town's charter, and directs the town manager not to demolish the Buzzell, and also, if I recall the language, talked about rescinding the action taken by the Select Board. So what we're presented with are a couple of different questions here, a couple of different issues. And I know one gentleman essentially made a challenge as to where the authority of the Select Board is found with respect to that property. So it's important that we look at a number of provisions in law, both in the town's charter, the Town Manager Act, as well as statute. And I'll read just initially Chapter 40, Section 3 of the general laws, a specific provision that addresses some of this issue. And this gets to the gentleman's challenge with respect to the authorities of the Select Board with respect to the property. All real estate or personal property of the town, not by law or by vote of the town, placed in the charge of any particular board, office, or department, shall be under the control of the selectmen. So the property we're talking about is held currently for general municipal purposes. It's not held by a specific board. So it falls to the authority of the Select Board, as now known, as opposed to the Board of Selectmen. And so the Select Board has, as the town's chief executive body and by statute, has authority over property that is not otherwise dedicated. Different dedications might be, say, for school purposes or for some other very specific purpose to a specific board or body for that particular control, or property that falls under Article 97 that's otherwise protected. So as initial matter, the property as it stands right now is under the care, custody, and control of the Select Board by action of law. The provision of the Town Manager Act that we're looking at has some very specific language, although it's not perfectly drafted, but it does talk about the authority of the town manager and the jurisdiction of the town manager over the rental and use of all town property except schools. And it says, he shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town property, including school property, and school buildings and grounds. Except as otherwise voted by the town, he shall be responsible for the preparation of plans and the supervision of work on all construction, reconstruction, alterations, improvements, and other undertakings authorized by the town, subject, however, to the approval of the school committee with respect to plans for construction or improvement of school buildings or property. So, except as otherwise voted by the town, he shall be responsible for the preparation of plans and supervision of work. This language does not, in my opinion, give rise to the ability of town meeting to essentially direct the town manager. What this language does is it would allow town meeting to delegate certain authority to, say, another body, another board, another entity to oversee a particular project. But in terms of the management of the property, town meeting, I think it's been pointed out several times, town meeting is the legislative body, but town meeting is not the executive body of the town. And there's a long list of cases, a long line of cases that states as essentially a general principle that a legislative body has no ability to exercise direct control over a board or officer, and has no ability to essentially control matters that are executive in purpose as opposed to legislative. Legislative actions of town meeting are essentially threefold. Town meeting authorizes bylaws. Town meeting appropriates funds, and town meeting takes action as specifically allowed by law, be it enacting a statute or voting for the acceptance of a statute or the imposition or allowance of a tax exemption under the statutes. We know we have many statutory exemptions that and exceptions that are approved by town meeting. And town meeting can direct how a project is going to be authorized. That's the purpose of Section 12F. But the language of this article, the language, I should have the motion, that seeks to direct the town manager not to take certain action, in my opinion, is seeking to direct an executive action, and so is not within the authority of town meeting. So while town meeting can vote on this, and I know that the moderator allowed the article, in my opinion, based upon the separation between executive authority and legislative authority, again, and I know that this motion also included language about rescinding the action of the select board and suggestion that select board acted illegal. I think another point that has to be made is town meeting is not the appeal body to which an appeal may be made from an action by the select board. Town meeting doesn't have that oversight role where town meeting would on its own override an executive action by the town's executive body. So again, in my opinion, I think I've given this opinion previously, this action of town meeting would not bind the select board, which has the care, custody, and control of this property. Mr. Moderator.
To provide an explanation or to correct an error, yes, Ms. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. In our motion, we do not ask to rescind the vote. I will read it the way that the motion reads. It's to see if the town will exercise the legislative authority and vote to pursuant to Section 12F of the Wilmington Inhabitant Bylaws to otherwise direct the town manager not to demolish the former Buzzell Senior Center School located at 15 School Street, overriding the action of the Wilmington Select Board. There's a difference between overriding an action and rescinding. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Rich.
If I may respond. Again, I think it's important to note the language that was just given, exercise legislative authority, so the limits of legislative authority. I don't personally see the difference between overriding and seeking to rescind. Override suggests, again, that the legislative body would have a role in undoing or overriding an action of the executive. And again, as I've indicated previously, the cases are very clear, the separation between executive authority and legislative authority. The legislative body is not the appeals body to essentially override, overrule, or rescind. Whatever language you want to use, that's not the role of town meeting. Mr. Moderator.
All right, to the woman in the gray quarter zip up front.
Hi, Jackie Allard, 12 Thurston Ave. So I think, I will be honest, when I came in, I had a very like a bias on which way I thought I wanted this to go. However, sitting and listening to everyone and also being sort of aware of my own, I guess, ignorance, is the fact that I don't know if we've actually provided people the right information to be able to make a vote. And so, for example, this woman mentioned the cost to rehab the building and the cost to upkeep it. And then someone else mentioned potential funds coming in to keep the building. And I think that regardless of all the political things going on about who has the right and who doesn't have the right, it's pretty clear that the people of the town want more time to make this decision and feel like they want more information. And maybe the information was out there, right? And maybe people know the answers, but it's seemingly very clear that that information is not understood by a lot of people in this room. And so my recommendation would be, like I said, I had a bias on which way I wanted to go with this. But sitting here, I don't know the answer because I don't think I have all the facts. How much does it cost me? How much would rehab happen? How many people could I come in from a leased tenant? Who could we get people in to actually have income come in? And so that's my own observation of sitting here that, frankly, I didn't know enough. And I probably don't think that I'm alone, and I'm not afraid to say that. And so my recommendation would be for the Board of Selectmen, I think you personally do a great job. I'm pretty happy. I don't care about the crap about who votes what. But you're hearing from the people that that they don't want to make this happen right now. Tearing down a building is a one-way door. A two-way door is waiting, getting more information, and then deciding to tear it down if that ends up being what the decision is. And maybe you all have had the information to be able to do that, but I don't think that people here feel they have. And that could just be one path to sort of moving this along and getting people to be a little more satisfied with the process. So, thanks.
We're going to go to the gentleman in the back, the woman in the back in the black, Ms. Manganelli, and then Mr. West.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name's Mark Nowacki. I live at 169 Shawshene Avenue. I must say that 3 town meetings in a year is a new personal best for me. I really don't want to have it happen again.
Me too.
Pursuant to the comments just before and to the town citizen who spoke earlier about the town meeting, the select board decision, I fully admit I was not at that meeting and I didn't read the minutes, but I would like to ask through you if the select board would care to stand up and give us their justification for making this decision.
So this is, I feel that my role, whether it's 1 meeting a year or 3 or 17, is to protect the intent of this assembly, and I'm not going to allow this assembly to turn into a deposition for individual members of any board or committee or any other member of the public that comes to be here. I don't think that is, there may be a forum for that, and but I certainly don't think that I would be doing my job as moderator if I allowed this to be turned into a really an interrogatory based directed at specific individuals. So we're here to, you folks are here to make decisions on the merits of an article, and your opinions or assessment of the validity of decisions of others certainly are valid. You don't need my permission for that, but I can't really allow this assembly to be turned into really a direct questioning or a deposition of individual members. So
I accept that answer. Thank you.
The individual in the black in the back, again, Ms. Manganelli, you want to get in queue, or you want to respond to what I said?
If I could respond to what you said, that would.
Okay, all right. Mr. Manager.
There we go. Thank you. So I did want to provide a response to the last 2 individuals who spoke, because I think they both bring up some valid points. And I think it's important to remind the Assembly what this process actually has been, which is in the very beginning of this calendar year, the Select Board, over a couple of different meetings, had a kind of very robust discussion about how they were going to thoughtfully plan for reuse of different town buildings that were scheduled to be vacant as a result of the town hall and the senior center project and potentially the school project. And the outcome of those meetings was a creation of a reuse committee. There were several members here who served on that committee, and that committee was charged by the Select Board to be the public outreach and public interface of those reuse discussions. The goal was to have that kind of public comment and public participation as a part of a subcommittee, and not have it in front of the Select Board. And so there were there were members appointed to that reuse committee. And that reuse committee had 7 different meetings across the calendar year specifically about this property. This was the only property that was on their agenda, and so those 7 meetings were totally about this particular property. They also put out a public survey that had over 700 respondents about the reuse of this property. And they were charged with bringing back recommendations to the Select Board. They didn't have any independent authority, but they were charged with trying to hear what the public wanted. At those meetings, there was information provided about the age of the building, the status of the building's critical systems, the estimated cost of what the repairs would be needed to bring that building up to code, which would have been required if there was going to be a change of use of the building. There's requirements of the state statutes to bring certain parts of that building up to code. The lack of ADA compliance in that building. There was an estimate of, I believe, $1.2 million, which has been mentioned a couple of times, that was kind of a very rough estimate provided by an engineering firm that the town regularly does business with. So out of all of those 7 meetings and those hundreds of participants, the reuse committee was split on whether or not to preserve the building or to recommend that it was demolished. And so that ultimately, that report was prepared. The report was a public document that was prepared and submitted to the select board. And only after all of that public process did the select board then take a vote. So I appreciate, as I was a part of the school project before this, I understand that sometimes people just miss it and they don't realize that there's this large discussion going on in town about a particular important project. That being said, there was a very large discussion about this project. And so I don't want the individuals who have shown up tonight in good faith to discuss this to feel as though there wasn't a large process. This was a process that stretched over many months, and I think a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into making surveys and preparing reports. And I don't think anyone that touched this evaluation did it in a way that was thoughtless or careless or rapid. The reason why we had all this process was to try to allow the public to participate. And so at the end of the day, the select board did take a vote, and it was 3-1 with 1 abstention to demolish that building. But that was the end of this many month process that the select board had set up last winter to get to the position that we were when they took that vote. And I just wanted to make that clarification. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Mr. West, do you wish to get in queue or respond specifically to some of the comments that Mr. Slagle made?
I just want to say Frank West, 2 Birchwood Road, Chair of the Wilmington.
Mr. West, are you responding to Mr. Slagle, or are you wishing to get in queue? We got other people that also want to speak on this.
I want to get in the queue then.
Thank you. Okay. So the woman that's been waiting very patiently for me to call her in the back right.
Mary Lamont, 17 School Street. I actually attended all of the reuse committee meetings, and there's a tremendous amount of interest in the building using it. So to start off with, I'd like to say any monies that would be used to bring that building up to par would not be wasted. I think it would be used for the next 50 years. There's so much interest. But I would also like to say, I understand that I call it the Little Red Schoolhouse on 125. They were going to demolish that also. But they had the students from the tech come in and fix it, and now it's been used for, I think, 20+ years. The building we're standing in is a multi-million-dollar building. The Town Hall and School Administration building is also a multi-million-dollar building. Some of the funds, which I believe were used to hook up the drainage system from the Buzzell so that it wouldn't flood into the new drainage system at the Town Hall. And there's also a multi-million-dollar school that's going to be built. So any monies, I believe, that have to be used to keep the Buzzell functioning are not going to be wasted. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go to Ms. Manganelli. Mr. West, purple shirt in the back. Ms. Manganelli.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Through whom you feel would be best to answer this on the town side, what effect does this article have, if approved tonight, on the existing plans for the Buzzell? Thank you.
Mr. Rich, I think you touched upon on this earlier, but maybe if you could more concisely respond to Ms. Manganelli's inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for that warning to be concise. I don't know that I can specifically answer this question. As I indicated earlier, based upon statute and case law guidance, in my opinion, again, this action would be directory, not mandatory. It would be advisory. As to how what implementation would occur based upon this vote, that remains with the select board having the care, custody, and control of that property.
Mr. West.
Frank West Jr., 2 Berthold Road. One, I would like to say I want to thank all the town employees that have not gone home yet that actually put all this together. So I just want to thank them first. Second is, whichever way this goes, we put these people in office. We're the ones that put you guys where you guys are right now. If we're saying that we want to keep a building, we should be able to keep a building. If you guys don't want to listen to us, then I think that we need to take that in consideration come the next few years. And the last thing I want to put out there is, Mr. Town Manager, you made a comment saying that this was not a rushed or unthoughtful decision, yet this was a forced vote. This wasn't even on a select board's minute to take a vote. This was a forced vote. So to say that this was not a,
Mr. West, I'm just going to call you to order. Just try to constrain your comments to the motion that is on the floor. The actual.
Sorry about that. But I just want to get across to everybody here saying that whatever we decide is what we should be doing. And I hope that everyone comes to almost a unanimous decision. But at the end of the day, I hope that I want to thank everyone for their time to coming out here today. I know it's a Thursday. I know everyone wants to go home. So I just want to thank everybody here for at least hearing everybody out and actually being an active participant in the community on what we want to do with this building. Thank you.
To the woman in the back.
Sarah Dixon, 62 Washington Ave. I would like to move the question to vote.
I'm sorry, did you try to move the question?
I would like to move the question to vote, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Oh, come on.
There's like 40 seconds, okay. So, our town meeting superfans will, this will not be news to you, but any new folks, a motion to move the previous question is essentially to end debate and call for a vote. It is a procedural vote, so this is not the ultimate vote on Article 1. So I will try it with a voice vote. Let me first check with my alternate moderators. Mary, are you ready for a motion to move the previous question?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So again, are there any questions on a motion to move the question? This is not the ultimate vote on Article 1. This is a vote as whether or not you've heard enough and you want to proceed to that vote. Okay. If you are in favor of moving the previous question, so indicate by saying aye. If you're opposed, say no. No. Voted. I can make that determination on a 2/3 majority. The question has been moved. So this is a simple majority, so we will try a voice vote on Article 1. If I am in doubt, I will ask the tellers to take their place. I'm going to restate the motion. Bear with me. It's a little bit lengthy. The motion is to see if the town will exercise their legislative authority and vote pursuant to Section 12F of the Wilmington Inhabitant Bylaws to otherwise direct a town manager not to demolish the former Buzzell Senior Center / Buzzell School located at 15 School Street, overriding the action of the Wilmington Select Board taken on September 22nd, 2025, authorizing the demolition of the former Buzzell Senior Center Buzzell School, and to prohibit the expenditure of any funds for the purpose of demolishing said building unless otherwise directed by the legislative authority of town meeting.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator. Do I get closing comments?
Oh, you do.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. You were doing so good.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I've had enough practice this year, too. Ms. Sullivan, you have up to 10 minutes.
I won't take that, I promise. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I just do want to, hold on one second. I have to open this up again. I just want to address the difference between, language is always really important to me. I don't know, maybe I should have been an attorney. My mother always told me I should have been. But anyways, the primary difference between rescind and override, the primary difference is that rescind means to completely cancel, nullify an action or agreement from the beginning, treating as if though it never happened, while override means to use a higher authority or power to overrule a decision made by someone else. Thank you. Also, Mr. Moderator, I just want to go on record that I do not agree with Town Council's assertion that the executive branch overrides this body. It is true that under the Town Manager Act that the Select Board has pretty much given up a lot of authority and placed it into the Town Manager. Okay, that's what the Town Manager Act does. Sorry, guys, that's the way it works. This body actually has a lot of authority, and I believe more authority than the board. The board, I served on that committee where people came in, a lot of people that wanted to reuse this building. I just think it's horrible that those people and all the committee members and all the amount of time that went into that is being ignored. And at least in this forum, people have the opportunity to voice their concerns or they're against the standing of this building. That's the way it's supposed to work. Whether you want to argue over who has authority, this is the process that's supposed to happen. This is the process that works. Not three people on a board looking at each other about whether or not they're going to, vote to exercise what they think they have the right to tear down, a town asset. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
All right, with apologies again for getting the right of the maker of the main motion to address the assembly after a vote on a motion to move the previous question. I believe we are now ready to vote on the motion on Article 1. We're going to again try this by a voice vote. It is a majority vote. I'm going to do a voice vote first. Okay. If you are in favor of the motion on Article 1, so indicate by saying aye. You're opposed, say no. No. You're going to make the tellers do their work, aren't you? So I'm going to ask that the tellers take their place. You should be getting out your fuchsia pink colored voting card. I did. No, I do that at the very beginning. Mary, let me know when it's happening. Yeah, if you're standing in the back, I don't want to name any names, Mr. Representative Robertson, but all right. So, if you are in favor of the motion on Article 1, please rise in your chair if you are able and display your fuchsia pink colored voting card. All right, you may be seated. Thank you. If you are opposed to the motion on Article 1, please rise in your seat if you are able and display your fuchsia pink colored voting card. You may be seated. Thank you. The vote on the motion on Article 1 is as follows: 173 in the affirmative, 46 in the negative. The measure passes. All right, we're not done yet, folks. On to Article 2. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate, transfer from available funds, or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money for improvements to the former Buzzell Senior Center for renovation and related improvements thereto of said building, to bring into compliance with relevant building codes and standards for municipal and/or community use, including the payment of all costs incidental and related hereto, not to exceed more than $615,000, and to take any other action related thereto. Mr. Shalfor.
Paul Shalfor, 48 Hopkins Street. I move that the town, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash or from any other available funds a sum of money not to exceed $615,000 for improvements to the building known as the former Buzzell Senior Center located at 15 School Street, including renovations and related improvements necessary to bring the building into compliance with applicable building codes and standards for municipal and/or community use, and for the payment and all costs incidental and related thereto, or to take any other action relative thereto.
Thank you, Mr. Shalfor. I'll accept that as a main motion. Is there a second? Mr. Shalfor, could you just present your motion up here in writing? All right. So the motion has been made and seconded. Finance Committee recommends disapproval of Article 2. Discussion, Mr. Shalfor.
So we, as the petitioners, did not look to reinvent the wheel here. We took to heart what the Building Reuse Committee put forth to the community, and we based our decision on asking for that amount of money, that $615, based on the feedback and the viability report from the Building Reuse Committee. I don't know if you have a graphic for this. I'm not sure. It is the highlighted, I don't know if it's highlighted or not.
Yes, that's it right there. So what we ended up, the budgetary walkthrough, so what we ended up doing is taking the repairs needed and going through the triggered compliance repairs. Main entrances make accessible, bathrooms make accessible, miscellaneous interior doors, upgrade flooring and leveling, upgrade HVAC with heat pumps, upgrade electrical, and of course a fire suppression and alarm system. These totaled $665,000 as prepared by the Building Reuse Committee. What we did take out of this was the kitchen upgrade to commercial standards. The kitchen had been upgraded at one point, and we felt it was unnecessary at this point to put a commercial grade kitchen in that. So $50,000 was taken out of the triggered code compliance line item of $665,000 to bring it down to the $615,000. I also just want to make a point about the cost, the $615,000. It's a net cost. It's a gross cost. It's not the net cost. If in fact this building were to be torn down, there would be a cost associated with that, and it's currently estimated by Consigli, who is doing the. This was also part of the. I don't think you have the graphic, but I'll read it. This is also part of the senior center demo Town of Wilmington estimate, and it has two estimates on here: demolition, hazmat survey $5,000, dumpsters for building demo $28,000, demo of existing senior center $49,800, for a total demolition cost of $82,800. There's also a hazardous material abatement allowance of $41,500. So we're talking in the area of about $123,000 for that hazmat abatement and the demolition itself. What is not included on here, and I'm not directing a question to anybody in particular, but if it can be answered, I think the Assembly should hear it, is site remediation. Once, should the building be torn down, what is the cost for site remediation? There's going to be a gaping hole there. There's a full basement in the building, so that will have to be handled in some way. The line items here that Consigli provided as part of the Building Reuse Committee report does not say anything about site remediation. So stormwater management, the paving, the filling, the compacting, making the area usable in some fashion after the building being demolished is also a cost. That needs to be considered. There's also the cost of the improvements that have been made to the Buzzell School. It was hooked up to sewer as a part of the town hall project. There's obviously a cost to that, so that cost would be lost. Again, not directing a question to anybody in particular, Mr. Moderator, but if it can be answered, there is a cost that's associated with that. If in fact I did hear, and I didn't consider this beforehand, but I did hear something to do with stormwater management being tied into the stormwater management of the Buzzell being tied into the town hall school administration building as well. So there's that additional cost. So we have the known estimated costs, and we have the ones that obviously will need to be taken care of, but we don't know. So I'm not here to estimate what they may cost, but $123,000 for demolition and hazmat abatement, site remediation, whatever that costs, and any improvements that have gone into the Buzzell. And if the improvements, I don't know where we stand on the 30% threshold for improvements going into the Buzzell, but there's a 30% threshold of $163,950 that is the threshold that if that has been met in some fashion, then this is all in. This is all the chips go into the table, and the town's going to have to be taking care of that. I don't know where that stands, but there obviously is a cost to hook up a sewer line to the building. If stormwater management was hooked up, there's also a cost there. There's the known costs or the known estimated cost. So Subtract that from the $615,000 and you could get a far more manageable amount. And as the motion was read to take this from free cash, currently certified free cash in the town is $49,050,206, certified as of, I believe, October 27th of this year. $615,000 is approximately 1.25% of the total free cash on hand at the town. If you take the net amount of maybe $400,000 when you subtract the improvements that have been made to the school, the demolition and hazmat costs, and site remediation, you're talking a far lesser percent. So that's what we're talking about. I'm not sure if anybody can answer those questions or those unknowns that I did put out there, but that's essentially what we're looking for, to have this brought into ADA accessibility and compliance, and to have that amount.
All right, so two points, Mr. Shalfo. First, I know you mentioned in your motion free cash. Your motion actually reads to vote to transfer from free cash or from any available funds.
Yep.
Is it your intent that this would solely come from free cash?
Do I have a moment to consult with the petitioners?
Yeah.
All from free cash, okay. considering the amount that's in free cash now. All from free cash, so that can be.
So is it your intent to have leave of the meeting to modify or to amend your motion so that it would, the beginning of it would read, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash a sum of money not to exceed $615,000, thereby striking the language or from any other available funds? Okay. Are there any objections? Seeing none, I will declare by general consent that that clause or from any other available funds has been stricken from your motion, and I will mark it up the motion that you turned in on that. The other point was, I know that there was a question, but I'm asking if you could perhaps restate it on the remediation of the site so I could try and direct that
sure.
to the appropriate individual.
So, reading from the Consigli report in the Building Reuse Committee that is titled Demolition Estimate, let me just read it again so everybody's clear on it. So, Senior Center Demo, Town of Wilmington. It's on Consigli letterhead. Consigli is the general contractor for the Town Hall School Administration Building Project. There are several line items. Under demolition, there are several subheadings. Hazmat survey, $5,000. Dumpsters for building demo, $28,000. Demo existing senior center, $49,800. And then another bold heading, hazardous material abatement allowance, and then a subline item, asbestos abatement allowance, $41,500. What I meant by site remediation is when the building is knocked down, there's nothing that says how that site is going to be handled to make it usable with, it's been bandied about using it as a parking lot. Does what needs to be done there? Filling in the hole with a cellar for the demolition, for the Buzzell, where the Buzzell stands? I don't know.
So is your question,
the question is
there a plan to
remediate the site? Should the building be demolished? Is there a plan to remediate the site, and what is the cost of that plan?
Okay, Mr. Slagle?
So the town did not go far enough down the demolition process to receive any kind of pricing for that.
Okay, that was basically that's it. So it's an unknown, and that's where I came into the equation. So as an unknown. Okay. Thank you,
Mr. Diorio. Could you just turn your microphone on and just let folks know who you are and where you live?
There we go. Thank you. In round numbers, it's 1.2 million. The petitioner mentioned taking out the kitchen, which is 50 grand. That gets us to $1,150,000. Where the petition's for 615,000. What isn't going to be done? When will that be done? Where will those dollars come from? And will the building be habitable if we only do, based on the dollars, half the work?
Can I answer?
Mr. Shalfo, if you have the answer, yeah.
Oh, it's my perception of what is going on with regard to different costs. I don't know if it's the exact answer that he might be looking for. We took from the Building Reuse Committee what the triggered code compliance items were, the ones that I read: main entrances, accessibility, bathrooms, accessibility, upgrade, flooring and leveling, kitchen upgrade, which was taken out, upgrade HVAC and electrical heat pumps, upgrade electrical and fire suppression and alarm system. So that's the sought after, the triggered amounts for code compliance. The other things, upgrade lighting, replace windows, replace ceilings, not included in that $615,000. Yes, it is part of the 1.19 million. 1.191 million, but it is not what is being sought here currently.
Won't we have to spend that money eventually, though? If the building needs a new roof and we put $600,000 into it and we don't fix the roof? Or the other things on the list, aren't we just wasting the $600,000?
Is that directed to me?
It's a general question for anyone who's thinking about voting for this tonight. You can't fix half a problem without a solution for the other half, because what you're doing now is spending money, and then what else are we going to do? If the roof needs to be replaced, then that's not on the list. We should either allocate enough money to fix the building or not allocate any money, because you can't do it halfway.
All right, so Mr. Buzzell, I saw you jumped in front of Ms. Allard just to provide
As
an
a
explanation
petitioner, I can answer this question.
Okay, are you providing an explanation or
Yes.
correcting an error?
Yes, I'm going to directly answer his question.
Okay.
The answer to your question is we will be coming back in front of the town meeting body next year with the additional funds. This is one of a couple that we're going to be doing. The decision to do it this way was actually presented by Dennis Kelly, where 600 and change was allocated for the first phase of the construction to get it up to a point that the building could have a decision how it's going to be used, which will be made by the town manager. And then in the future, we will allocate more money to bring it up to the additional.
Thank you. So at some point, we're going to have to spend at least $1.2 million to get the building to where it needs to be.
Presumably, depending on who it goes to.
Okay.
So we're going to, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelly, because I know your name was mentioned.
Yes, so during the reuse committee and during Soku Tech, who's the engineering firm we used to walk through, we then sorted it into codes that would need to be met. So that's where the 615 came from. It wasn't that that's all that needed to be done. When we talk about the kitchen is not ADA compliant, so that was one of the reasons the kitchen needed to be done. And those were all recommendations from Soco Tech. So the 615 does all the fire suppression system and all that code, all the ADA compliance, the code, bring it up to code on all aspects, plumbing, heating, all that. So the rest of it is stuff that would still need to be done. So one thing to keep in mind too is, as we talk about whether to spend this money or not, is we don't know what we're going to use the building for. So how do you know how much money and what you're putting in the money in for? So we're going to fix the building, but we don't know what the use is. So how do you put money into a building you don't know what the use is yet? So that's one of my concerns, and that's why the 1.19 replaces all that, insulates it, abates all the different things. We did have an abatement company, or considerably did, and do an abatement study, but we don't have pricing to all that. But those things all would need to be addressed as we do any of these projects.
You can get in queue, okay? So Ms. Allard has been very patient.
Hey, sorry, this is me again. So I'm going to come up and be exactly the opposite of what I was last time, which was supportive of pushing this off. And my thing is now, we're now going to allocate funds for something that we don't know what we're going to do without a real firm plan of what we're going to do. So I would urge everyone to vote no to this, because why don't we go through the work and figure out how much is the full remediation going to be? How much is it going to cost to keep the building up going forward for 5+ years into our operating costs, because that actually matters. It's not a one-time 1.2. It's going to have to be maintained. And then I would offset that with what does it cost to actually demo the building? What are the ramifications of that? And then we can all make an informed decision about how much does history mean to all of us, right? And to each one, that's very individual. But everything I'm hearing is like half, like answers to things. And I had actually read the reports. So I was saying I was ignorant before, which was sort of like just me being a little bit whatever. I had read the stuff. I didn't really find it very informational. That's a problem. So that, I think, is actually what we need to fix. Let's get real numbers out there, not ticks on a spreadsheet that don't add up. Let's give 2 different estimates of what this will cost today as well as going forward. And my thing is, we should not be allocating any money when we don't even actually know what we're going to do with the building, what these costs are going to do. That would be just actually making this even worse than it already is. And we should just pause and make the select board come back with options that we can actually choose. I don't actually know if that's like legal, but that's what I would like in an ideal world. So, thanks.
Mr. Toth.
John Toth, 54 Fiorens Drive. I'm in complete agreement with the lady. In fact, I would ask why there was anything presented on tearing the building down and replacing it, since that doesn't really address the motion at all. And I agree. I think we should vote this down and have them come back with a complete list of what they're going to do, and something we can put our hands on, not pick and choose things from a list that add up to twice as much as what they're asking for. And possibly there's even more stuff that has to go in there. Thank you.
We have the gentleman in the front, the woman in the back, Ms. Galezo. So I do have Mr. West after. Okay. So I got a batting order. We're going by it. So
Anthony Saragosa, 25 Marcia Road. I'd like everyone to look at these figures a little closer, and I'm looking at them, and I'm a little troubled with some of the numbers. For instance, the roof, the $300,000 roof. The footprint of the roof is about 7,000 square feet based on assessor's records. That's about 4 times an average house. If you look at the building, it's a residential style, pitch roof, asphalt. Would you pay $75,000, 1/4, to replace your roof? That just seems, these numbers, I don't know if they've been challenged by anyone. They just seem very inflated. Look at the HVAC number. What's that one? $250,000. Again, average house, mine, and whatever, most people is probably about 1/4 of that. 62 whatever thousand for a new HVAC system. I haven't heard it, these numbers. Just go down the list. And so I'm definitely challenging these numbers. And I'd also like to remind everyone here a couple things. There's 2 properties on the site, not including, of course, the new construction. The other building on the site is the 4th of July building. Most people in here have probably been inside the building. It's an old building as well. It's a very average building. You've been in it, it's well kept, but it's average. The assessor calls it average. All right, it seems reasonable. On the senior center, the assessor is calling it excellent. The grade is excellent. I have it right here if anyone wants to see it. Is the assessor that wrong on this? And what else are they wrong on? All these people that have houses that are taxed on, which a lot of it is on the grade. So how many people have an older house that, well, it's, whatever, we'll call it excellent, even though, it could be torn down, they're paying. So I think the town would have a lot of explaining to do if they're willing to tear down a building that they're calling excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Deborah Russo, 902 Lord's Court. I guess I'm kind of surprised. The seniors spent a lot of time in that building, and we were fine. We just had a new kitchen put in not that long ago. It's in great shape. A lot of that building is in great shape. In fact, one of the things that I had read, you had something about the town manager and the responsibilities and how the town manager cares for the building. And One of them was rental. And I'm wondering, yeah, that's it, in F, have a jurisdiction over the rental and use of all town property. I'm not sure if the town was ever planning to sell this building or rent it, but if it's going to be rented, and it could, somebody could go in there right away, and any money they pay could be used toward rehabbing. I'm not a member of the Sons of Italy, but I know that they were one of the groups that were looking, and I know that there's a lot of really talented builders probably associated with that society. And I'm wondering, I don't know the answer to this question, but does the town have to use the people that it uses for construction? Or like if there was a group of people who had very talented members who were willing to work on something like that, why couldn't we use them? Why do we have to pay? Not that I'm objecting to it, if that's what it comes to because of some legal reason, but we've got all kinds of attorneys and stuff that we pay for. Why can't we rent to somebody who's going to take care of it, and not just us? And I think if that was the case, if it's money that people are so concerned about on the boards, and I get it, we could be making money instead of just spending it. Thank you.
We're going to go to Ms. Galezo, the individual in the front, and then Ms. Sullivan.
Question probably toward the town manager. What is the trigger amount that the town would need for the owner's property manager to be hired?
Mr. Slagle?
So I apologize that I'm trying to come up with a number. I think it's 1.5 million?
1.5 million.
Yeah, so at 1.5 million, we are triggered to follow the OPM.
One follow-up question. If you were to stagger work over 2 years, would that still constitute hiring them? I would think that.
So we couldn't do anything like bid splitting.
Okay.
But it's possible if you scheduled something that were completely different projects. So a roofing project, you know, if we're hiring one contractor, if we tried to hire one contractor and then get them to split their bills over several years, that would likely be bid splitting. But, you know, if you were doing a roofing project, that wouldn't necessarily be the same as an HVAC project, and so probably wouldn't trigger as long as you're not doing it as part of one project.
Okay, to the individual in front who's been very patient with me.
Hi. Jack Jones. I live at 126 Grove Avenue. I am probably the youngest person in this room. And I would like to say that I think that we should hold off on any budgetary for repairs until we decide what we're doing with this building. Because currently it's just an empty shell just sitting there. I think we should have like a set, I think we should vote on like what we should do with it. The town like reusal committee should come to the town with some ideas of what we could do with it, and then we can form budgets from there, understanding what we're going to do and what we're going to use the building for. And then we can decide on a budget, what needs to be done, and et cetera. And that is all I have to say. I'm going to keep this quick.
Me, I'm behind you.
All right, so you have Ms. Sullivan, Mr. West, Mrs. West.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Suzanne Sullivan, 60 Lawrence Street. I would like to address this idea of the perfect world, which we would love to be in, that we wouldn't have to be here tonight asking for $615,000 to save this building. We were forced into this position because of 3 members of the select board that forced us into this position. Because if we don't take this position and we don't do something here tonight and allocate money to save that building and to put work into that building, they will tear it down. They have been very clear that that's what they're going to do. There have been rumors saying that it doesn't matter what town meeting does. People on the select board and people in the town hall have been going around telling people it's going to get torn down anyways. So that's why we're here. That's why we need the $615,000. It's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but that's what they did. So if you want to continue this, let's continue it to annual town meeting, allocate some funds tonight to save this building, bring it up to code. It needs to be brought up to code, period, no matter what you want to do with it, no matter who uses it. Whether we do it now or we do it next year, it needs to be brought up to code. It's a shame that this building wasn't brought up to ADA compliance when it was being used as a senior center, and that's actually shameful in my opinion, and it was shocking as a member of the Building Reuse Committee to be told these things. And as far as challenging the costs, I think there's people on the Building Reuse Committee tonight that know that I pushed back on the costs for this building, and I didn't believe some of the numbers. But I have no choice but to believe the numbers because it's being presented by the town. So if somebody has other information out there, I'm glad to hear it. But these are the numbers the town gave us. These are the numbers that we have to go by. I pushed back. You can watch the minutes. Watch the meeting. It might even be in the minutes. I did not believe the numbers. The other thing is, I just want to say really, really quickly that we just built the senior center for $17.26 million. Okay, that's 18,208 square feet. We just spent $949 a square foot on the new senior center. The new town hall administration building, $37.3 million. We spent, that's 43,895 square feet. We spent $850 per square foot. And we won't even get into the cost of the school. And we're going to complain about this. This is an 8,300 square foot building. What we're asking for tonight at $615,000 comes out to $74 a square foot. Are you serious? In this building, and this building would be for the community, not just to house employees to service the town, okay? This would be for the community, for nonprofits, maybe for the Arts Council, but for the community. $75 a square foot. Come on, people. Thank you.
We have Mr. West, Mrs. West, Mr. Romano.
For once in my life, I come before my wife, so thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Careful about that.
You asking to cede your time?
Uh-oh, she said careful about that. Anyhow, Frank West, 2 Birchwood Road, Chair of the Board of Selectmen. I want to take you back a little bit. You guys talked about the Little West Schoolhouse. I was on the Historical Commission in 1990 when we dedicated that to the National Register of Historic Places. That building was a disgrace. We couldn't have anyone inside the building. We did the dedication on the outside. For years, we kept, as a member of the Historical Commission, I kept asking, and other members kept asking the town, hey, can we get some funding to spruce it up? No, no, no. Okay. Finally, I get on the Board of Selectmen in 2003. I say in 2004, I'm at a public meeting, and I say to Mr. Kyra, who is the town manager, and I said, hey, I'd like to see what we can do to restore the West Schoolhouse. He looked at me and he said, you can do all you want. We've got $250 in the West Schoolhouse budget. The following year, that building was rehabbed. We didn't have a plan. All we had was, let's rehab the building. And then all of a sudden, these entities came in. And what happened was that we ended up getting $103,000 through the efforts of Representative Jim Buzzell. And I would like to call Representative Dave Robertson to the microphone if Dave Robertson is still here. He's not in this building, but I don't know if he's in the side building. But while I'm on that, is that, first of all, they keep saying that members of the Board of Selectmen voted against this. I was the only person that voted to save this building. So I just want to go on record for those people that haven't seen the meetings and stuff. So I just want to let you know that I am fully in support of saving this building. My opinion is that once we get to rehab the building, we'll have entities come in. We've already had for example, the Sons and Daughters of Italy express interest. We've had WCTV express interest. We've had the Wilmington Arts Council express interest. The Wilmington Library express interest. So, there's interest out there. The thing also is that we're out there spending, for example, on the Textron fields. We thought, gee, we're going to get a couple of little fields over there. Were pretty nice. They're going to cost us about $2.5 million to get that prep for whatever we end up using those fields for. So we spend a lot of money. We just did the AstroTurf field here at the high school. There's an AstroTurf field at the Yentile farm. What do those cost? Like $600,000, $800,000, and they got to be done every 20 years. So my point is that I think if we could utilize this, just start this building process, get momentum going, get this $615,000 or whatever. We may not even spend this. You don't know. I mean, somebody comes out and says, "Hey, we're going to use, X project cost X dollars." Yourself, folks. We go out and get bids. I know the town has to go through a different procurement method. But there are cost savings that we might be able to do. And that said, Mr. Robertson, are you still, I saw you pop in.
Do you have a question for the Assembly?
My question to Mr. Robertson, being our state representative, is would we be eligible for any state funding for the rehab of that building?
All right, so
Sorry, Mr. Robertson, you weren't in the building. I'm asking it through the moderator to you. Are there opportunities to get state funding to support this building?
Mr. West, I'll restate the question, but again, I feel we're going a little bit beyond the scope of the motion that's now under discussion because this assembly is being asked for $615,000, but just briefly, Mr. Representative Robertson, are there any avenues through the state to receive additional funds to help abate some of the cost of this?
Yes, sir. Several months ago, when the board and the reuse committee were beginning to explore this, I was approached not by any official capacity of a board, but by some just generally inquirious people from the community. The largest sum of money I was able to find that would be possibly qualified for by Wilmington, it's a competitive grant, is for $100,000 from the Secretary of State for Historical Properties. Any earmarks from my office would be no more than $50,000 for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
So I just want to, if I can just summarize. Again, folks, I would really appreciate we taking this vote. One of the things that they talked about is the utility cost. The current utility costs, if I'm not mistaken, are about $20,000 a year. And those utility costs are based on what the senior hours were, which was like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and with the old heating system. So I would assume that if we upgraded the heating system, upgraded the electrical, we upgraded the air conditioning, we could probably save some money in those costs. So, and again, like if a WCTV came in there as a partial tenant, we could charge them rent to Mrs. Russo, I think it was, that mentioned that. So there are opportunities and there are creative ways that we can restore this building, and I hope you're fully on board, and I would hope that my fellow board members, after listening to the discussion at town meeting here, even though town meeting may or may not have the final say, I would hope my fellow board members would be in agreement to go with town meeting, which is all you people and us as residents as well. Thank you.
All right, so just to recap the batting order, if you don't mind, Ms. West will be up next, and Mr. Romano. Then we're going to go to the back microphone. We do have a list that's about 6 or 7 people at this point. So, Mrs. West.
I'd like to move the question.
Oh, come on. I do have a point of order, though, and I don't know when we do that.
What is your point of order, Ms. Spinelli?
The first vote they said is not legally binding, but this vote then would be legally binding. I just wanted to understand.
So, Ms. West, get yourself to a microphone. I'm going to just temporarily delay recognizing your motion. Council, just to respond to, I guess, any effect that a vote in the affirmative on the motion in front of the floor in Article 2 would make.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, through you. As I mentioned earlier, there are essentially 3 functions for town meeting, and one of them is to appropriate funds. So town meeting can certainly appropriate funds and transfer funds from free cash. And then the expenditure of those funds would be in the hands of the select board, having the care, custody, and control of that property, as well as the town manager under the Town Manager Act. So, but town meeting can certainly
That's a
appropriate.
yes.
Town meeting can certainly appropriate.
I'm sorry, no on the first one, yes on this one.
So
I'll repeat myself. Town meeting may appropriate the funds as specified in the article.
Sorry.
It's a
yes.
Okay. I'm not trying to be smart.
Mrs. West, do you want to make?
Yes, I'd like to move the question.
Okay. Is there a second? You folks,
That's bold.
I appreciate humor on the Robert's Rules of Order. I may be the only one, but I appreciate it. So a motion to move the previous question would effectively end debate. We've been through this before tonight. So if the motion to move the previous question passed, the maker of the main motion will get up to 10 minutes. Mr. Shalford, that's your opportunity to remind me if I screw up again. No.
Waiting up here twice and didn't get to speak.
So there is no guarantee that that the assembly chooses to move the question, but it is ultimately up to.
2 times you skipped over me.
So.
But to come to town meetings so that we can be involved citizens and to give our time, just as you all do. I'm sorry, but I've been a very involved citizen for a very long time. And to come here and give up my time and to come up twice to speak and to have you all do this, or have a few people that have already had their say more than once, it's really unacceptable. If this is what the ruling is, I will accept it, but you need to know the frustration, and you want to know why you don't have more people coming to town meeting? This is a perfect example.
Mr. Moderator, you have a motion before you.
Yeah,
Call the question,
I do
which
want
is
to
not a debatable motion.
It is, and I do want to address it as a point of order. So we've had 13 people speak on Article 2, and we've been at this on Article 2 for about 45 minutes. So. I do the best that I can to take the people that I see in the order in which I see them. I don't give any preference to folks that are on stage or anywhere else. All right. Okay. So if you wish to continue debate,
Vote no.
You may vote in the negative. If you are in favor of a motion to move the previous question, you would vote in the affirmative. So let me just check with my alternate moderators to make sure that their locations are ready. Mary, you ready? Okay. So if you are in favor of moving the previous question, and otherwise any debate except to allow the maker of the main motion up to 10 minutes to address the assembly, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. If you're opposed and wish to continue discussion, vote no.
No.
I can't use the mic to talk, I may as well yell.
I'm going to declare that the motion to move the previous question does pass, so we will proceed with an ultimate vote. I will try a voice vote, but I'm suspecting that the tellers are going to need to take their places. If you are in favor of the motion before the Assembly on Article 2, which would be to transfer from free cash a sum of money not to exceed $615,000 for improvements to the building known as the former Buzzell Senior Center located at 15 School Street, including renovations and related improvements necessary. It has been a very long day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shalford. Janet Carosa Ingram, 33 Allen Park Drive. As I stated before, I've been very involved with this town of Wilmington, and I would like to propose something that actually I think would benefit the town. We all agree that this is a building that, or 90% of us agree that this is a building that should be saved. With that said, The concern is how much it's going to cost to preserve this building or to bring it up to code. As other members in this audience have stated, there are other organizations in town that are very interested in this building. We can preserve this building, we can rent it, and we can have them pay for the renovations that are needed. We preserve the building, it doesn't cost the town anything, and you're going to have very active members of your community sharing your interest of keeping the building with no cost to the town.
Because the motion to move the previous question did pass, we have to actually proceed directly to the vote on the motion. So, I would ask for folks to get ready for a voice vote on the motion in front of the assembly, which again is to transfer from free cash the sum of money not to exceed $615,000 for the improvements to the former Buzzell Senior Center, including renovations and related improvements necessary to bring the building into compliance with applicable building codes and standards for municipal and/or community use. If you are in favor of that motion, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. If you are opposed, say no. No. I'm sorry, tellers, if you could just take your places. So if you are in favor of the motion on Article 2, please rise in your seat if you are able and display your fuchsia paint-colored voting card. There we go. It's right here. All right, you may be seated. If you are opposed to the motion on Article 2, so indicate by rising in your seat if you are able and displaying that fuchsia pink-colored voting card. More coming. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Thank you. The vote on the motion on Article 2 is as follows: 146 in the affirmative, 49 in the negative. The measure passes. All matters on the special town meeting warrant being disposed of, I would ask for a motion to dissolve the special town meeting. Motion has been made. Is there a second? Motion has been made and seconded. No discussion on this. If you're in favor of getting out of here and dissolving the meeting, so indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously.